Tommy, a 28-year-old tech enthusiast, was always drawn to the strange and unexplained corners of the internet. He spent most of his free time searching for creepy videos, diving into conspiracy theories, and watching bizarre content about eerie online mysteries. For him, the thrill of uncovering something dark and unusual was addictive. He often explored deep into forums and obscure channels, looking for the next unsettling video to watch. One evening, while scrolling through a forum, Tommy stumbled upon a channel called The Algorithm's Curse. It claimed to feature videos that predicted the future and showed unsettling glimpses of people's personal lives, an idea that seemed too outlandish to be true. He was skeptical but couldn't resist the pull of curiosity. Tommy began watching the videos, quickly dismissing most of them as fake or poorly done pranks. But then, one caught his eye. The title read, "Your Future Begins Now." Tommy clicked on it, expecting it to be just another gimmick. But as the video began, something felt off. The footage showed his apartment, his exact apartment, with details he had never shared online. The furniture, the layout, the small items scattered around his room. It was all there, perfect in every way. He froze, his pulse quickening. How could they have known? Tommy's heart raced as he watched the video unfold. Suddenly his phone flickered, and for a brief moment, he saw himself on the screen, sitting exactly as he was, watching the video. His breath caught in his throat. How could that be? The voice in the video began to speak, sending a wave of dread through him. "Tommy, you're sitting on your couch watching this video, waiting for something strange to happen." Tommy froze, staring at the screen, unable to move. How could the voice know exactly what he was doing? The voice continued, its tone calm yet unsettling. "In a moment, you'll hear a knock on the door, but don't answer it. That person isn't who they say they are." A cold chill washed over Tommy. His instincts screamed at him to get up, but his body was paralyzed with fear. He slowly stood and walked to the door, his heart pounding in his chest. He opened it, only to find the hallway empty. No one was there. Relieved but still uneasy, he turned back to his phone. But then it happened. The knock sounded again, louder this time, as if it was coming from right behind him. His body stiffened. The voice on the screen grew clearer, more commanding. "You can't ignore this anymore, Tommy. The knock will happen again." Panic surged through him. He tried to press the pause button to stop the nightmare unfolding before him, but the video kept playing, describing his exact movements, where he stood, how he breathed. It was as if the video knew everything. The voice continued, now sounding eerily calm. "Tommy, you're trying to close the app, but it won't let you. It's too late now. The door's open." Tommy could feel his body sweating, every word feeling like it was becoming real, like the nightmare was unfolding before him. His hands trembled as his phone suddenly rang. He picked it up, but there was no answer, just a faint, heavy breathing on the other end. His stomach twisted, panic rising in his chest. The video flashed again, and the voice returned. "The knock was only the beginning. He's inside now. He's waiting for you." Tommy's heart raced as he glanced around his apartment, trying to make sense of it. Everything felt wrong. The walls seemed to close in on him. The silence was deafening. The video glitched, and suddenly he heard footsteps coming from above. He stood still, frozen in fear. The voice was almost a whisper now. "He's close, Tommy. He's already on the floor above you." His mind ran wild, trying to shake off the growing sense of dread. But the footsteps grew louder, closer, as if they were moving right above his head. Tommy's skin prickled. He could feel the weight of something terrible bearing down on him. The video ended with one chilling line that sent a shockwave through his entire body. "He's here." The tension in the apartment was palpable as the nightmare deepened. Suddenly, the door handle began turning slowly. Tommy stood frozen, his body paralyzed with fear as the door creaked open. Yet the hallway remained empty. He stepped forward cautiously, his heart pounding with dread, and peered into the dim light. For a moment, everything was still, but then, out of the corner of his eye, he noticed a shadow moving steadily toward him. A figure emerged into his apartment, and it wasn't human. Its face was pale and featureless, a blank slate that sent a shiver of horror down his spine. Tommy screamed, though his cry was swallowed by the oppressive silence of the night. The figure moved closer, hovering at the edge of his space, never quite crossing the threshold. Suddenly, the video on his phone flickered back to life, displaying the figure's blank, empty eyes. A voice whispered from the screen, "You turned it off. Now, he's here to take you." The next morning, Tommy's mom arrived at his apartment calling his name, but there was no response. The door was locked from the inside, and a deep sense of unease crept over her as she forced it open. The room was eerily still, as if frozen in time. Tommy's phone lay on the couch, still playing the video. The title now read, "The Algorithm's Curse, Part 2. Her hands trembled as she picked up the phone, staring at the screen. Suddenly, the figure from the video appeared behind her, a horrifying reflection in the screen. She gasped and screamed, but before she could react, the screen went black. Weeks passed, but the terror didn't end. A new video titled, "The Next Name Is Yours," appeared on the same channel. Viewers flooded the comments in a state of panic, their words filled with disbelief. "I've seen this before. It predicted my life. Now it's too real." Across the country, more and more people began to experience the same chilling phenomenon. The algorithm's curse was spreading, and no one knew how to stop it. The terror had only just begun. Jake had always been fascinated by horror. At 24, he spent most of his nights scrolling through YouTube shorts, watching videos about real-life hauntings, dark web mysteries, and cursed content. He loved the thrill, the eerie music, the way certain videos made his skin crawl. His friends often teased him, saying that one day he'd stumble upon something real. He would just laugh, shaking his head. It was all just content. Creepy, yes, but ultimately scripted. Nothing on the internet could actually hurt him. That night, like many others, he lay in bed with the lights off, his face illuminated only by his phone screen. The algorithm fed him its usual recommendations: urban legends, security footage of strange occurrences, paranormal investigations. But then something unusual appeared. A video he didn't recognize, with a title that made him pause. "Your Story." The thumbnail was pitch black, no image, no text overlay, just an empty void. Curious, he tapped on it. The video started with a low, distorted hum. The screen remained dark for several seconds before flickering to life. The footage was shaky, as if filmed on an old phone camera. But the setting looked eerily familiar. It was a bedroom, his bedroom. The same posters on the wall, the same cluttered desk, the same unmade bed. His heartbeat quickened. This had to be some kind of elaborate prank. Maybe an AI-generated deepfake. Then, the camera panned. A figure stood in the doorway, its face obscured by shadow. The sound of breathing filled the speakers, slow, heavy, unnatural. The figure took a step forward. A voice whispered from the phone, distorted yet unmistakable, "Don't turn around." Jake's breath hitched. His hands clenched the phone tighter. This wasn't possible. His rational mind screamed that it was a hoax, some creepy personalized content meant to scare viewers. But the details were too perfect. The mess on the floor, the open closet door, things that weren't visible in any social media post, things that only he would know. The video continued. The camera moved closer to the figure, revealing just enough, a hint of skin too pale, fingers too long, lips slightly parted as if ready to speak. Then the screen cut to black. A single line of text appeared. "Look behind you." Jake's stomach dropped. Every instinct told him not to. He forced himself to glance at the phone again, hoping the video was over. But it wasn't. The feed had switched to his front camera. He saw himself lying in bed exactly as he was now. But there was something behind him. A shape, a shadow, too close. Panic surged through him. He bolted upright, twisting around. The room was empty. The air was thick, suffocating. His phone vibrated violently in his hand. Another notification, another video, the same title, "Your Story." He didn't want to press play, but his hands moved on their own. The new video showed live footage of his room, but this time it wasn't empty. The figure stood at the foot of his bed, closer now, watching, waiting. His breath came in sharp gasps. The lights flickered. A low creak came from his closet. Slowly, agonizingly, the door began to open. His phone screen glitched, distorting his reflection. And then, the whisper came again, clearer this time, as if spoken directly into his ear. "You're part of the algorithm now." Riley Montgomery, a software developer, lived a quiet and methodical life in her small apartment in a peaceful town. Known for her sharp mind and love for digital puzzles, Riley spent her free time diving into the strange and obscure corners of the internet, always on the lookout for something unusual to challenge her. One evening, while deeply engrossed in her work, she received a cryptic email from an unknown sender. The subject line simply read, "You're ready. Click the link to begin." At first, Riley was skeptical, thinking it might be another marketing scam, but her curiosity got the better of her. She clicked on the link, expecting a usual ad or spam. Instead, the page that loaded was titled, "The Code That Watches." There were no instructions, no information, just a blank screen with a blinking cursor. Riley's fingers hovered over the keys for a moment before she typed, "What is this?" The screen changed almost instantly, and a new message appeared. "You have now entered the system. Watch carefully." Riley suddenly felt an unease crawl up her spine as a video began to play on the screen. It was a strange, unsettling view of her own apartment, filmed from a first-person perspective, as though someone was watching her every move. The video started narrating her actions, and she froze when it spoke. "Riley, you're sitting at your desk now. You'll look at your phone in a moment. You're wondering where this link leads." Riley glanced at her phone, her heart pounding with cold fear. No one should know these details. No one, except for her. The video continued, describing her actions in real time, even predicting the exact moment she'd reach for her coffee mug. Her hand shook as she lifted the mug to her lips. Then, as if this wasn't disturbing enough, a new email popped up on Riley's phone. The sender still the same mysterious address. The subject line read, "Click the link. You will find a code. Enter it." Despite the dread filling her, Riley followed the instructions, typing in the code. Instantly, a new message flashed across the screen. "You've made your choice. The system is watching now. It always does." Panic surged in her chest as she tried to exit the page, but the website refused to close. The video continued, but this time, it wasn't showing her apartment. It was showing her mother's house. As the video shifted to her mother's house, Riley's heart began to race in her chest. She stared at the screen, watching in horror as the video predicted something she hadn't expected: a break-in at her mother's home. The video showed the house from the outside, as if the camera was hidden in the shadows, silently observing. Riley's phone buzzed in her hand, and she read the text message that appeared. "Don't follow the code. You're already part of the system." A shiver ran down her spine, but despite the warning, she felt an overwhelming urge to continue. The video played on, and soon the break-in began. The intruder's face was blurred, but the sequence of events was chillingly accurate, described in real time. Riley's phone rang, and her mother's panicked voice filled the room. She was describing the same break-in. Everything was unfolding exactly as the video had shown. Riley felt trapped, helpless, as she watched the events play out, unable to stop what was happening. The video's predictions grew even more accurate, almost as if the system had complete control. The voice on the screen echoed, cold and final. "You're part of the code now, Riley. It knows everything." The next morning, Riley rushed to her mother's house, her heart still heavy with the weight of the events. Her mother was shaken but unharmed, thankfully, though the video's predictions had come true. As they sat together, trying to make sense of everything, Riley noticed something even worse. The video wasn't over. It continued, showing her mother again, this time sitting at the kitchen table, staring at a phone. Riley watched, horrified, as her mother's face began to change. Her once warm, loving expression turned empty as her eyes went completely black. Riley's stomach twisted in fear as she tried to warn her mother, but it was too late. Her mother now looked hollow, as if something had drained the life from her. The voice from the video echoed once again, cold and relentless. "Riley, you can't stop it now. It's already inside you." The screen glitched, the room grew colder, and Riley felt an unnatural force tugging at her, drawing her closer to the laptop. She wanted to escape, but it was as if the darkness had already claimed her. The video finally ended, leaving behind one chilling, final message. The code that watches is always watching. The next day, Riley's apartment was found abandoned, eerily silent. Her mother's house was the same, empty and lifeless, as if both had simply vanished. The only trace left behind was Riley's laptop, still running the same video. The screen flickered one last time. Then the message appeared. "You're part of the system now, Riley, and the cycle will never end." The video began to play again, but this time it showed the faces of others, people Riley knew, some of whom were now trapped in the system, just like she was. Her laptop was gone, but the video didn't stop. It continued to spread across the internet, consuming more and more lives. As the video looped endlessly, Riley's name appeared in the credits, forever a part of the code that watches everyone else. She was no longer a spectator. She was part of the system. No one was safe anymore. The code had claimed them all. You may think you're safe behind a screen, but the stories you've just heard show us that no one is truly free from the eyes that are always watching. What if it's not just fiction? What if the things we've seen today are already starting to happen around us? The digital world is constantly evolving, and the lines between reality and nightmare are blurring. Could something like this happen to you? Is there someone or something already watching? If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to like and subscribe for more spine-chilling tales. Share this video with friends, but be careful. Maybe it's not just a story anymore.